Welcome to this special report dealing with drought. I'm Archit Seshadri. Over the next 30 minutes, we're going to focus on India's drought problem. Our first discussion focuses on Europe's air pollution playing a role in India's drought, according to a new study. And a little later, we'll talk about the plight of Tamil Nadu farmers protesting in New Delhi after a spate of suicides from the drought-hit region in southern India. Well, first, a shocking study that shows that air pollution in Europe may have contributed to one of India's worst droughts back in the year 2000. This affected more than 130 million people. Researchers from London's Imperial College found that India's northwestern regions experienced a staggering drop of about 40% in rainfall because of emissions. This from Europe's industrial areas. Researchers say Europe's emissions alone caused reductions of up to 10% in the northwest and southwest of India, causing one of the worst droughts in its history. Researchers also calculated the effect of the sulfur dioxide emissions during their study. The study also shows how emissions in one part of the world could have a significant role on another part, even if the pollution itself doesn't get there. Well, joining us for this discussion, we have Deputy Director General Chandra Bhushan from the Center for Science and Environment from Rajasthan via phone. And we also have Sunil Dahiya, climate and energy campaigner with Greenpeace from Bengaluru. Thank you both for joining us. My first question is to Chandra Bhushan. Is Europe really to blame for the drought problem in India? I mean, does that seem fair? I mean, what do we make of that report?
I think that report needs a little more scrutiny. We do understand and know that, sulfur pollution and other pollutions have impact on rainfall pattern and monsoons. But just 1 year, assuming that pollution will cause such a drought just in 1 year, and therefore not extending this study further, this is an important study, but I believe that it needs further examination.
Let's also talk about, with a situation like something like this, it seems kind of hard to believe that, continent or Europe so far away from India and sort of drawing parallels to problems in our own neck of the woods. Sunil, let me go to you. When we see this report, what inferences can we draw and perhaps sort of a lessons learned?
I think, as Mr. Bhushan has mentioned, that there are evidences that sulfur dioxide emissions causes these changes in the climatic patterns as well as the extreme events. But the parallel which we can draw from this is that the emissions caused in Europe have an impact elsewhere, and similar things should be reciprocated from the emissions happening in India, China, and elsewhere in the world, saying that the emission needs to be stopped here. Otherwise, we are heading towards disasters in the environment domain, and these extreme events will keep increasing. So the parallel to draw is that we need to stop that kind of high emission-based developmental pathways.
Well, let me go back to Chandra Bhushan. Should Europe pay for this? Should polluter Europe from the study? Do they have some sort of responsibility to bear?
Listen, I think the bigger issue, more than the local pollution this study has addressed, the bigger issue is carbon pollution. Okay, I believe that the kind of carbon pollution that has happened historically from the developed world has led to global warming, and the biggest impact on climate, on agriculture, on rainfall in Indian subcontinent, and for that matter, large part of the world, is because of climate change. So therefore, I'm a little skeptical about this study. Okay. Because this study has not considered how global warming is also causing the kind of environmental impact that we are witnessing in South Asia and Africa. And therefore, I am not going to put my money on this study right now, okay? I think this study needs a lot more verification. But as I said in the beginning, that the biggest challenge is how do we reduce carbon pollution from across the world. I believe that is much bigger problem than some local industrial pollutant that is coming out of Europe.
All right. We're going to come back to the discussion in just a bit. But first, last year, the World Health Organization warned that more than 80% of the world's population breathes poor air. Now, this increases your chance of lung cancer and other deadly diseases. The U.S. and the European Union were identified as the world's biggest polluters. Here's a report.
Air pollution killed 7 million people worldwide in 2012. More than half of the deaths were linked to poor air quality outdoors. Many types of pollutants exist. The most harmful are microscopic particles in the air. They're mainly produced by industrial activity and road transport, but also by farming and wood stoves. The very finest particles released by fuels like diesel are the most dangerous. Smaller and often toxic, they penetrate deeper into the respiratory system and can enter the bloodstream. Ozone is also a pollutant. In the stratosphere, it exists naturally, but at ground level, it's a health hazard. It's created by reactions between nitrogen oxides and volatile organic compounds in the presence of sunlight. These compounds come especially from exhaust fumes. Ozone can damage vegetation and cause stress for people with asthma and respiratory illness. Another gas, nitrogen oxide, forms quickly in high-temperature combustion in vehicle engines and power plants. It reacts with moisture in the air to form a vapour of nitric acid, which can worsen bronchitis and other health problems. Pollutants such as sulfur dioxide, benzene, ammonia and toxic metals like lead and cadmium can also affect the lungs, eyes, digestive tract or nervous system.
Let me go back to Chandrabhushan. It says U.S. and the European Union, many of those countries contribute to the pollution, one of the biggest polluters in the world. I mean, what do we make of that? What needs to be done, especially with all the impending talks with regards to climate change and the climate talks with many world leaders?
Listen, it is very clear that we have a framework convention on climate change. That convention demands that those who are more responsible for causing pollution take early action and reduce pollution. So this is a very established global principle that U.S. and Europe, that have historically been the largest polluter of the world, they take big action, quick action, so that we are able to solve the kind of climatic change that we are witnessing. But it also means that China will also have to take action and India will also have to take action. But the big, quick action will have to come from the United States and Europe. Unfortunately, U.S. is now being headed by a person who doesn't believe in environmental issues, okay? What Donald Trump has done in the last few weeks is atrocious. He has decided that U.S. is not going to follow the agreement it signed in 2015 at Paris. So U.S. is going to withdraw or not meet the Paris Agreement, which is unfortunate. And Europe is also dithering on its commitments. So though we can discuss today on this television news that what U.S. and Europe should do, the fact of the matter is they are not doing enough and they don't plan to do enough.
And real quickly, I also want to bring up a stat real quick. Some of the world's top 15 cities, according to the World Health Organization, most of them are in fact in India, Saudi Arabia and China. Delhi, of course, making that list in that top 15. What do countries like India, China and Saudi Arabia, Iran, in fact, has the #1 most polluted city in the world. What do some of these cities and countries in the world need to do to sort of prevent this? Chandrabhushan?
Listen, we need to do our homework. We need to clean our air. Delhi need not be the most polluted city in the world. We need to make sure that we have clean vehicles, we have cleaner industry, we work hard to reduce pollution at our own home. But it is also important that a lot of the environmental challenges that we are witnessing across the world is also caused by transboundary pollution, global pollution like carbon dioxide. And therefore, countries who are contributing to this pollution must also take action, primarily the developed world.
All right, we thank both of our guests for chiming in on this discussion. Chandrabhushan from Rajasthan, as well as Sunil Dahiya joining us from Bengaluru. We appreciate your perspective. Well, after the break, the drought fallout in India. Farmers from Tamil Nadu are now forced to drink urine and are protesting in the nation's capital. That side of the story when we're back.